Is Courtney on? Courtney or Vivian on?
Yes, I'm here. It's Courtney.
Hey, Courtney, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good, good, good. Let me that. I will start. Hi, Sherry. Probably give a couple of more minutes, Joe, and then we can start. Well, you can start your presentation. Cool.
Sure.
You're able to share your screen from your end, right?
Yeah, let's see if I can do that. Share screen. I think so.
Okay, good. All right. All right. So, yeah, I'll give a couple of more minutes and then we can start. Cool. Awesome.
Courtney, are we back in person for the data science bootcamp?
Yes, we are actually. We've been in person since July of last year. But we're having more people come in person or doing like a hybrid approach. So we have a cohort starting on Monday, and only four people would be doing it mostly online. Everyone else is in person.
Cool. Okay. I guess I can start, right? It's about
Yeah, you could go ahead. Let me introduce you first. Well, thank you everyone for joining. Today we do have an exciting event, and hopefully you guys will be able to pick up some things, learning from Joe's experience, and then we're going to have DAS 42 coming later on after Joe. Uh, Joe, is it okay if I share your email? I know you're fine with your LinkedIn, but what about your email?
Yeah, that's fine. That's cool.
Okay, cool. So we have Joe here. He graduated the infamous March 2020 of from the boot camp, and he's going to share his experiences and things that he's went through and just some recommendations for the process of looking for employment. And then we're going to have a bit of a recruitment event with DAS 42. They've hired 3 people from our boot camp so far, and they're looking to hire a couple of more. I know I spoke to Juliana about it. So this is like a great opportunity to ask some questions, get some information, and hopefully it will help propel you during your job and interview process. So without further ado, Joe, I am going to give you the floor. Thank you so much for doing this for us. I truly appreciate it.
Sure. Um, well, hi everyone. So if you want to add me on LinkedIn, that's my LinkedIn over here. And yeah, a brief background about myself. So I did graduate in March of 2020. It was a very exciting time, I guess. My background is I have a bachelor in mathematics and economics, and I got my master's in computational finance, also known as financial engineering, which is essentially a combination of math, statistics, coding, and finance. And there's actually a significant overlap between financial engineering and a master's in data science. Um, and I'd spent some time also at the same time while getting my master's working in the financial industry as a market maker, mainly trading fixed income instruments on the sell side. So that's just a bit of context. In terms of getting the most, well, I guess I can go through this quickly because you're all on your capstone project, so you're near the end of the bootcamp. I would say for the capstone, focus on business impact, revenue increase, the amount of churn that you've reduced. Definitely do all the SQL questions. SQL is a topic that comes up on probably 80 or 90% of the interviews, so you really can't get away with it. And it's an easy filter for people who haven't practiced their SQL to be eliminated from later rounds. So definitely work on your SQL. Try to go through, SQL Zoo, Post, GRE, SQL, etc. And then when you're applying for jobs, just treat it like a job so you don't burn out. Apply to jobs maybe 9 to 5, and then just take the night off and don't think about your resume or your job applications. And unless you're changing career direction completely, I would say try to leverage pre-existing expertise that you have. So for instance, I worked in finance for a number of years and I targeted data science jobs in the finance industry. So that's that. Job search was interesting. So I started the bootcamp in December 2019, and the job market was amazing. And I thought to myself, this is great. It's easy. I just go to the bootcamp for 12 weeks and I graduate and I will get a job pretty quickly. What could go wrong in 3 months? Well, graduated in March of 2020. The unemployment rate at the time was 15%. And many classmates of mine who were very highly qualified took about 6 months or more. Some of them actually took a year to find a job because of the pandemic. So there were literally no jobs at the time. So I think your experience would be much better than mine, right? Like the current job market is phenomenal. It's really good. Your conversion ratios will be much better. So I applied to hundreds of job applications. I lost count after about 200. Definitely over 200. Can't remember. Got about 10 first round interviews. Some of them were just not relevant at all. Like some of them were data engineering roles, and I wanted a data science role. Other roles were specific to maybe the pharmaceutical industry. Like I had no pharmaceutical experience. I worked in finance. So some of them were just, out of 10 first rounds, I would say maybe only about 4 or 5 of them were actually relevant. Got 2 final rounds, and I got 2 offers, and I accepted one. Ended up joining Fidelity as a data scientist. Bit of background about my current role. So Fidelity is a large asset manager. A lot of you probably have retirement or IRA accounts at Fidelity. So they have 4.5 trillion AUM. Headquarters are in Boston. They focus mainly on index funds, mutual funds, and wealth management, etc. And I'm a data scientist at Fidelity. So there are definitely some useful skills that I took from the bootcamp that I use on the current job. So data cleaning, feature engineering, and yes, we do actually use machine learning. The machine learning model that we have right now for pricing municipal bonds actually uses scikit-learn's random forest model, believe it or not. So random forest is something you occasionally do see in the industry. So mainly I focus on building machine learning models to price various fixed income assets, CDs, municipal bonds. So if you imagine a municipal bond debt issued by a state government, state of California, state of Illinois, or maybe a utility company, hospital, school district. Essentially, the common point is that they're issued by the public sector, and the interest is tax exempt. You don't pay taxes on the interest. And so if you try to find the price of these bonds, right, that's what you're trying to predict. There's a lot of factors like the credit rating, the maturity of the bond, what type of bond it is, and things of that sort, right? So you have all these different features, and then you try to do some sort of feature engineering that is reasonable, intuitive, and then you add other features that might be useful but might not be useful into the random forest, and then through variable selection, the random forest might actually output the feature importance and say these features are important, these are not so important. So it's very similar to the housing price project. We have things like the area of the house, the age of the house, does it have a garage, what neighborhood is it in? But you do the same thing except the price of the municipal bond instead of price of the house. I also build yield curves as well and do time series analysis. Also some risk management, portfolio optimization, which coincides with my prior background in financial engineering. So it's a combination of data science and sort of a quant role. Actually, the difference between quant and data scientist is becoming more blurry every day. So it's not so clear anymore. The tools we use here is mostly KDB called Q, KDB-Q, which no one else uses really, and some Python. This is not the industry standard, so don't worry about that. Like, if you have to focus on data science skills, I would say 90% or more is Python and SQL. So we're one of the very few places, my particular department, one of the very few places that uses this language called Q. Basically, no one else uses it. So focus on Python, focus on SQL, and you'll be very well equipped for 90% of the interviews out there. Courtney asked me to show if there are any openings. Fidelity is huge. Fidelity has 40,000 employees, and they have offices in many different cities. So if you just go on LinkedIn, you search for data scientist, Fidelity, you'll see 100 results. This is consistently the case. I think at all times, Fidelity is always hiring. And actually, there's a lot of turnover right now because of the current job market. There's far more positions open than qualified candidates. So there is actually a labor shortage right now. And so there's a lot of turnover across many industries, and Fidelity has a lot of openings as well. So let me know if there's a role that you see at Fidelity that you think would be a good fit for. We can talk about it, and I can write you a referral so that at least you can get a first round interview, right? So just keep in mind that Fidelity, being it's such a large firm, there's a lot of other data scientist departments out there that I don't interact with on a daily basis. So I would have to fetch that information. I guess the most relevant things are sample interview questions. These are probably what you're here for, to make your job search easier. So I put a couple examples here to make it more streamlined. So broadly speaking, there's the first round interview, which is usually an HR screen. So a person with no background in data science. The only way you could really screw this up is if you just show that you have not done any homework on the company. You don't know what the company does, or you say something that offends the HR phone screen. They just want a sanity check that you're a pleasant person to talk to, and that you've actually done some homework. You have interest in the position. So sometimes they might ask you, how comfortable are you in Python, SQL, or R? Sometimes they'll even ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate yourself? Now that's a tricky question. You say you're an expert, they might, dive deep into a question and get yourself stuck. But you also can't say that, your skills in Python are 0 or 1, right? So you have to say something like 5 or 6, maybe 7. I actually don't know what the right answer to that is, but it's somewhere in the middle, right? So, tell me about your interest in background in data analytics. How did you get into data science? What excites you about data science? Why are you interested in our company? What do you know about our company? Tell me something, an interesting project that you did before. How did you overcome challenges? What were some things you would like to change going forward? Basically, like, what mistakes have you made, and how would you not repeat those mistakes going forward, right? There are some questions that are pure coding questions. They don't come up a lot for entry-level data science positions, but they definitely come up when you do things like machine learning engineering or data engineering. There's no secret for coding questions. Just do the most common 50 to 100 questions on LeetCode and HackerRank. I'm still doing that today to keep my skills fresh. I can go through, you guys want me to go through 3 example interviews that I did? These are the interviews that I got the furthest in. Yes, no? Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. So interview 1, this was a live interview. There were 2 rounds. Essentially, they asked me some machine learning questions. So explain in plain English these algorithms like PCA. What's the difference between lasso and ridge regression, right? What algorithms do you know? Make sure to list algorithms that you can defend because they might actually dig into it, right? Like if you claim you understand a random forest, they might ask you, oh, you know what a random forest is? Can you tell me what 5 hyperparameters are and what they do? Then you have to say, oh, well, number of trees, the number of features that you use in a tree, how deep the tree goes, the max or the minimum entropy change, right? Then you have to explain what that means. Well, if there's more branches in a tree, then it overfits, there's high variance. If you prune the tree too much, there's bias. So whatever algorithms you list, make sure you can defend yourself for at least 10 minutes and explain how it works, right? I got a brain teaser. This was fun, I guess. So you live on the 7th floor of a building. What is the probability that you are the last person to get off the elevator? We can go through these later if you want. We don't have to. I'm just give you an example of some of the things I've been asked. I can also send you this presentation to you later through email if you want to work on these outside of this presentation. Now, the brain teaser is you are in a train station. You have no watch, no clock. You're trying to figure out how long before the next train arrives. And it's open-ended. There's no right answer. How would you approach this? I got asked a finance question because I have a financial background. So don't worry about this if you've never done any finance before. It's just saying well, you've worked in finance. What are some inefficiencies in the bond market that you could trade to make money off of? That was company 1. Company 2, they gave me a take-home project. So they gave me some time series data over the course of 5 years. And it had a clear cyclical pattern, like seasonality, kind of waved up and down throughout, in the summer it goes up, in the winter it goes down, etc. And there's an upwards trend, but it kind of oscillated in an upwards trending pattern. So basically I had to visualize the data, list 2 or 3 interesting patterns. What do you notice about the data? And how does it connect with the business? Why do you think this data is like you trust the data? The data was purposely dirty. Yeah, I think they took a real data set and they basically injected missing values and just garbage data inside of it at certain points to see if it makes sense, right? It's like the number of products sold is negative 2,000. Well, we can't have a negative, amount for the number of products you sold. Looking at things like that. Also, feature engineering, justifying why you pick those features as well. I had to also do a time series to predict 1 year forwards. Essentially, you had to grid search a seasonal ARIMA model and find the lowest AIC. Essentially, AIC is a balance between variance and bias, essentially. And so it's kind of like grid searching, like hyperparameters in, say, lasso or ridge regression, but you had to hyper search through 3 hyperparameters for a time series model, and then basically say, what are the predictions that you created, and what are the different departments at this company that would benefit from your analysis, and what other data sets could you do that would also be useful for this company's business. Round 3, company 3, round 1 was a take-home. I received a credit card data set. So consumers, whether they paid a credit card or not, whether they defaulted on their credit card debt, they had certain features like their utilization ratio, whether they have been late on their credit card payments in the past, about 10 features. And basically I had to train a classifier. I used a logistic regression, but you can do any other algorithm as long as you justify it. And then for round 2, it was a live interview. How do you handle multicollinearity? How do you improve precision or recall? What's the difference? How would you improve precision or recall? And what's the trade-off? If you improve precision and your recall suffers, is that good or is that bad? The data size is big to read into memory. What do you do? They tested me on Bayes' theorem. So they gave me if there's a probability of a certain disease, a person gets a positive on a test, what is the probability actually having the disease? I was tested on O notation, and they also gave me a question SQL. They gave me a table, the columns, they gave me a query, and then said, what does this return? Couldn't play with a database, so that was kind of a tough question. You just had to stare at it and say, this is what it returns. Then I also had to do some linear algebra. Generally, you won't be asked questions like this deep unless you have had some programming or math background. So that's essentially it. Any questions or comments? Okay. You want me to, Courtney, do you want me to email this to you, this PDF?
Yes, that would be awesome.
Well, All right. If no one has any questions, then have a good day.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. Truly appreciate it. And I will send out a following up email if anyone has any other questions or concerns or have any insight that they would like to get for Joe in the future. So thank you so much for your time, Joe. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, guys, we're going to break for a few minutes. The next presentation is going to start at 11:30. So if you guys want to step away, but come back at 11:30, that'll be cool. Hey, Laura.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
Awesome. Thank you for joining. Do you want to start at 11:30 or did you want to start now?
Yeah, we can give it a little bit, and I'll let Valeria get some time to jump in as well. I just sent her the new link.
Okay, perfect. Sorry about that.
No,
I don't
that's
know
fine.
what's wrong with the link. It probably cut off, so I got to double
Yeah.
check. So
Yeah,
thank you.
totally fine.
I'm glad I caught that email.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'll just work on getting the screen shared here.
Okay.
There we go. Hey, Valeria.
There we go. Hello, how's it going?
Hey, morning.
Morning.
Let's see. We have Courtney here with us as well. Courtney's going to help moderate today, I believe. And Courtney, just so you know, I don't have access or very good visualization on the chat. So if people do want to send in questions, which is totally welcome, maybe if you could call those out.
Sure, not a problem. Good morning, Valeria. Thank you so much for joining us today. I truly appreciate it. We're going to get started. I have a question. Is it DAS 42 or is it DAS 42? What's the proper pronunciation?
I think we all tend to say DOS.
DOS? Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So we have DOS 42 here joining today. I've been working with Laura. When did we first start chatting? I want to say January.
Maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I think. Yeah.
It was
Or
longer than that?
3 months ago. 3 months ago.
Wow, it's April. That's why time is just moving too quickly. That's what it is. It's moving so quickly, so I can't even keep up. But we've been speaking for a while, and we've been able to recruit three. They were able to recruit three of our alumni, as I mentioned earlier, into their at their company, and we're trying to work, closer together so that we can continue on this partnership. And they're interested in some data analytic people to join in June, July, right, Laura? You said.
Yeah, and immediate hires may also be available as well for probably May.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give the floor to them. I want to thank the ladies so much for joining us today and presenting so we can learn more about the company, and hopefully you guys can recruit some more of our people.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Courtney.
No problem.
Yeah, so I'm here today. I'm the talent acquisition partner at DOS 42. And then we also have Valeria De Haro Mejia, and she is one of our consultants up in the Seattle area. And has been with DOS 42 for a while now as well. So we hope to both present a little bit about our company, but also a little bit about our consultants' day in the life. And Valeria will be here to kind of explain a little bit about what that looks like, what she's been up to, and also a little bit more about our tech stack as well. So far, the New York Data Science Academy has been a great fit with what we do. We do both data science and data engineering, as well as heavy data analytics. And so we wanted to make sure that people understood if you're going into more of a data analytics field, and if you're going into a client-facing position, what those differences might look like. So just a little bit about DOS 42. We help Fortune 500 companies and executives to use data to understand and improve their business, reduce the time to actionable insights, and to help them just make better decisions faster. That's really our overall goal. So however we can do that, along with our agreed upon tech stack, is typically the types of projects we end up working on. So we've been around since 2015. We're a fast growing team, and we have a very high growth, especially for this summer. We are hoping to go from about 70 current employees to about 100 by the end of the summer. And I think our goal is to grow into a mid-sized consulting company. We have a really broad team of individuals with lots of different backgrounds. Everyone has deep experience in different segments, but usually in data engineering, analytics, and IT in general. We have our primary offices in New York City, where headquarters is, and then Denver is our second largest office, and that's where I'm calling in from. And then we also have offices in Seattle and LA. We are pretty much a remote first company, but with hybrid work options. So we have offices, but you're not required to go in unless there's some client need. So we are very remote friendly. We welcome all educational and professional backgrounds. That's why boot camps work wonderful for us. Our CEOs are very supportive of the boot camp space. A lot of us are self-taught as well and have had to upskill along the way. And so we value anyone who's able to teach themselves new things or to continue improving their education. I would say our employees have very diverse backgrounds. Some come from social sciences, psychology, anthropology, but then we also have people who come from a STEM background, computer engineering, statistics, econ, of course, maybe like a master's in business analytics. That's a common path as well. But then the people who come from boot camps are pivoting from lots of different fields and typically come from a data science or data analytics type of background. So that's all very welcome, as long as you are interested in our tech stack and have taught yourselves the basics of it, which is Python and SQL, which I know you all have. That really fits well with what we do. And we train up on the rest, which is why we're not as concerned with technical prowess, I guess I would call it, as more of the soft skill sides of things, because this is a client-facing role. So I wanted to explain a couple of the problems we were seeing in the field and why we are so heavily focused on data analytics for large companies. Our CEOs and founders always have believed that all companies are data companies. Everyone has data, everyone should use their data. However, they started to notice that most organizations can't use their data in its current form, and that's why they come to us. Data might be siloed in different departments, might be really disparate. Data quality might be horrible. Some of you might have seen some really bad data sets, and that's just as common out in the field. Or data collection itself might be sporadic or inadequate. They might not even be collecting the right data for what they have for business needs or their business goals. And there might be a disconnect between what they are collecting and how or if the stakeholders are even using that data, if that data is visible in dashboards or business intelligence reports. And then there's also the problem of tech debt, right? There's a lot of new technologies out there, but a lot of companies don't know what to purchase, how to move to the cloud, how to handle really big data. And so a lot of why they might also come to us is because we have experience working with big data, large data sets in the cloud, and can help them choose the right tech stack for their needs. So when they're kind of confused about what's next steps to take, that's often why they come to us. We have a lot of large clients. These are just a couple of them. So we've worked a little bit with Cigna. We don't do as much healthcare, mainly because there's some I guess, slowness in the healthcare industry to maybe update their systems. But we have worked with healthcare. We worked with Walmart, Johnson & Johnson, Dropbox. Uber has been a long-standing client of ours for a long time now, Amazon. So I would call the sectors that we deal with pretty broad, but in general, we specialize in media and entertainment. And then we also specialize in retail and e-commerce. And we're expanding into software automation companies right now. And I think that's a really interesting opportunity to work with tech companies who just might not have enough data scientists or data engineers, or maybe worked on the tech part, but not the data collection and data optimization part of their tech stack. And so we've come in to help them along the way as well. So a very broad range of companies, and that's one of the benefits of working here, is you get to work with a very diverse range of clients and some really interesting companies that are doing some pretty cool stuff. And along the way here today, feel free to submit any questions. I know we only have a brief half hour, so we're going to try and keep it short so that you all do have time to ask any questions that you might have. So this is some of the problems that we were seeing. Their analytics technology in general is very fragmented, and there's a lot of options for tools to buy, tools to use, existing tools, you know, Salesforce, whatever companies might already be using. It's usually very different systems that don't talk to each other. Companies aren't always good at storing and organizing their data, and their current data landscape might look something a little messy like this, right? Maybe they have access to AWS, maybe they have Tableau, they might be using MongoDB, but none of it is really talking to each other. And so overall, they're not able to get the overall visualization of their company and how they're doing, how they're trending towards their KPIs as they might want to use. We try to fix a lot of this for them and have kind of a full stack philosophy of handling everything from the beginning of this process all the way to the end. So full stack basically means we both provide the data strategy consulting aspect of things, how to organize their data, tech stack integrations, we do the integration for them, implementing the applications that we're recommending, training them up on the analytics and how to use their tools, as well as anything else they might need, right? That might very well often includes dashboards, reports, and showing them how to do self-service business intelligence so that executives and people with less technical knowledge could still get the data they need when we're not there anymore. So we hand it off, but make sure that they're able to use their own analytic tools. So some of the parts that we do is data pipeline transformation, data warehousing, which I'm sure some of you have studied a little bit, data governance and how to trust that you have really quality data so that they can trust the business decisions that they're making, data platform modernization or migrating over their data platforms, cloud analytics strategy, self-service BI, and then occasionally some predictive analytics. However, that isn't what we specialize in. And I did want to clarify, we don't often do machine learning here at DOS42. We often pass off our kind of pipeline to data scientists and machine learning engineers who might want to run with a clean data set now. We ourselves do not specialize in machine learning, but we do data science and data engineering, which is the other side of those things. I know you all have been practicing all aspects of that. So it's very welcome here if you know that and really enjoy that industry. Just want to make sure that if you're looking to jump right into heavy machine learning, that's not always what we do here. Okay, so I'm going to pass it off to Valeria and have her explain a little bit about the types of tools we use and for what, so that you can get to know our tech stack. If you wanted to look into some of these tools, we think they're definitely industry standard tools. But I know from past experience with some boot camps, these are not always tools that you get access to or that you might know about inherently. So we wanted to explain a little bit about why we use them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we took a look at what the data landscape looks like. There are so many tools, and one aspect of our work that we take pride in is being opinionated. And so we're constantly on the lookout for what tools we can work with. We try them out ourselves before we implement them as part of our solution. And some of these tools we also really try to add value as well, implement as partners, and we continue to work back and forth and sustain a really good relationship with them. And so, like Laura mentioned, at every point of the pipeline, we will find a tool that we best believe in and partner with as well. So some of these names you might recognize. Fivetran, for example, is a data ingestion tool. So this is something that you would implement and transform data before bringing it into your data warehouse. Another tool you might recognize that's big in the industry is Snowflake. Snowflake is our personal preferred data warehouse. We also work with AWS and GCP, but really do believe in Snowflake's mission and make compute and storage easier for some of those larger enterprise companies that we work with. Another big tool definitely would be Looker and Tableau, who's also a recent partner of ours as well. Kind of towards the end of the data pipeline, really focusing on development of reporting for our business executives. That way we are making sure that they are taking the information that they have and really pulling those insights. And so these are the tools that we best implement for that usage as well. One new tool that we don't have here, but to kind of speak to a point Laura was mentioning, was we are a recent partner with Data Robot. So that kind of goes to show that we are continuing to explore the sector. And while we might not be quite experts yet, we're continuing to explore the tool and figure out how can we best implement in our solutions when it makes sense.
Awesome. Yeah. And then I know a lot of people ask how our projects work here. We do work in an agile framework. And so we wanted to explain a little bit about what a typical project might look like here. This is a 3-month project, which I think now is not probably representative of our projects. They're usually longer than that. But for some projects that just might need dashboarding and reporting, we often can handle those in 3 months. I think that's what this type of project is probably explaining. Our projects are anywhere from like 3 to 9 months long on average. And I would say they range towards the longer part of the months there. But yeah, Valeria, I'll have you kind of explain like how we end up scoping out our projects, and also like where you as a consultant might jump into this process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. So usually, like Laura mentioned, projects can range. I just came off of a project with a major streaming service, and that was a little bit over a year. And so not super typical project. I think my next project might be about 4 months, so a little bit more in that range. You see the first phase here, which includes the scoping and a proposal and a statement of work. That first phase is usually with our sales team. And so they're the ones usually getting to know what the client needs are, what specific work the consultants will be doing. And so I won't necessarily be a part of that initial phase. And so that really does include most of sales and what we call a little bit of a discovery. That discovery is what includes client needs, any other tools that we might be recommending as part of our solution to include in that statement of work. Where I come in would be the kickoff. So that's after everything has been signed, we're set on what we're doing. We have those dates aligned. And at the start of the kickoff, we still have our own discovery phase. That's going to be much more technical than what the statement of work offers. So this is going to be exactly us making an audit of whether it's a Snowflake migration or they have a Looker instance they need help with. We'll be doing our own audits as well, so we can make note of, okay, these are all of the parts that I'll be tackling. This is a little bit more specific what my day-to-day work is going to be like. A typical project might start with a BI tool component, which we'll get to towards the end of that second phase. We might be starting off with looking at their data. Do they need any transformations? What does it look like in their data warehouse? Another piece of a project that might be common would be implementing an orchestration tool. That really does help companies organize their data, make sure that all the data is run and before it gets to their data warehouse. So that's kind of what that second phase would be. I'll get a little to what the day-to-day looks like, but it's really the heads down work, the implementation, the debugging of code. Once we get to the third phase, really that's where kind of we're closer to developing that end product, which for the stakeholders in the business sector might be those dashboards, those reports. Any training that we also do with the team is going to happen at that phase. So we'll turn over our work. We'll also make sure that the team that we work with, which can include the business analysts, the engineers, they're equipped with whatever documentation they need. They are understanding of how the tool works, and they're going to be in a good shape to continue the work once we step out. So that's going to be the support and the training at the end. One of my favorite phases, I think, just because it really does give me the ownership and pride to present the work that I've done and say, hey, you know, if you need anything else, this is kind of where you navigate that. So yeah, typical phases of a project can all look very different, but yeah, this is what they would be.
Sorry, my mute button keeps going away. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about, just kind of a day in the life at DOS and a little bit about our work culture as well. We'll get into that in a second, but yeah, I know this is a very common question and you've kind of addressed it a little bit, Valeria, of, we do a lot of coding and debugging, right? But what does a typical day look like for you and how's that kind of split? And I guess maybe what does also your typical day like now look like? Are you back on a project now?
Not yet, actually, which is another big piece of, what our days can look like when we're not on projects. So
that's true. Yeah, that would be great. Awesome.
Yeah. So to start off on a day of a project, really, it can vary project to project and even phase to phase. But typically when your project, most of your time is going to be client facing. What that means is you'll have any client facing meetings, which either can include a daily stand-up. Could be as short as like 15 or 30 minutes every day at the morning, just to check in with the client, see how work is going. Any sprint planning with our project managers. This helps ensure that the project is on time. We're addressing any challenges, any roadblocks that need to be addressed so that any of our deliverables are not at risk. Any code dev sessions as well. If you run into an issue with your code and you've been staring at it for hours and need someone else to look at it, whether it's someone on your current project or someone at DOS in general. Anyone really will be happy to help hop on and help you debug. Those discovery calls were going to be the ones at the beginning of the project I mentioned. Internally, we'll spend some time at the client's instances, asking all the questions before we really start digging into the work. And then towards the end of the project, those client trainings. And then a part of that project work as well could be writing SQL or Python code and scripts. I think from the last few projects that I've been on, I've mostly written SQL, I think, for a few hours a day. If you're in the Looker part of a project, it could be some data modeling as well, making dashboards, validating data against numbers outside of Looker as well. Any other trainings, whether it's with the members of the team as well on the client side, any internal projects as well. So at the beginning of the onboarding process, I can't remember if it's exactly 4 weeks or a little bit more, but there will be a lot of training and opportunity for internal projects to really hone in on your skills and get some good practice before you hop onto a project, and then as well getting certified. Yeah. So outside of that bulk of the time, there are also internal opportunities to be involved. We have a series of committees that you can be involved with, such as onboarding, DE&I, service and giving, a social committee. So really wherever your interest lies, there's plenty to do, which is great about the size of our company. Some other internal meetings you might have are going to be one-on-ones with your people manager or your team lead on a project. And within our small teams internally, we call them small hands. So you'll most likely have bi-weekly small hands. We also really enjoy show and tells. It's a good opportunity to either hear from another company or just learn from a colleague and have them present some work that they've done.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. And I think our training is now actually 60 to 90 days because you are training up to get 2 certificates in your first 2 months here. And so there's some buffer time. That last 3rd month is optional in case you need more time to get those certificates done. So they've extended it so that we could add in more training as well. So I think we do intro to advanced SQL now, command line, GitHub review, getting everyone on the same page once they come into the company. Awesome. Basically, a lot of what we try to work on as kind of a team culture is we really invest in teaching and developing data consultants. As I said, we have a training program, but then consistently as you're either in between projects or have time during a project, which is rare, but have time during projects, a lot of our consultants are upskilling, and we have Udemy for Business where you have access to constant courses. And then we also have certification courses that are always available as well, like AWS and GCP certificates. We try to make sure to partner with industry leading technologies, and that's what we also focus on, so that our consultants both give the best support to our clients and also our consultants learn the best technologies in the field. We make sure we have measurable impact for customers, and our main goal is high client satisfaction. And that's why we have a lot of repeat business, and we have a lot of clients that have come back to us over the past 7 to 8 years for new projects. We also like to say there's a Slack channel for that. So we are remote first. And so a lot of our communication goes on by both Slack as well as an intranet that we have, as well as very frequent Zoom meetings. But the Slack channels are not just for like company communication. It's also just for like a water cooler or sharing pictures of your dog or introducing yourself as a new hire. So there's always a Slack channel to find interest and to bond with other people, even though we're across 4 offices. And as I mentioned, we do have kind of a remote first culture, but we have hybrid options, and we do have people that go into the office when they want to, but everyone can choose, how often they'd like to go in. This is our Denver team. I believe they went on a hike. It's a very Denver kind of area thing to do these types of things. And sometimes our consultants who are in the smaller offices will also fly out to the bigger offices when we have these types of outings. So New York, I think, has a little different culture than Denver, maybe not as outdoorsy, but they also do their own activities over there too. This is one of our work offices. So, the benefit of going into the office, we have stand-up desks, the ones that can like raise and sit. You have double or triple monitors if you need them, a lot of different support for your work office, but we also have a home office stipend so that you could also get a monitor at home if you wanted that. So it's just something we provide. And some of the reason why people want to go into work is both this and then to steal snacks and coffee because all of our offices have really good snacks and actually really good coffee. We also make sure that there's a big growth track here. And so I know we're running out of time. I want to give you guys time for questions, but I did want to go over career paths here. We typically hire people as an associate analyst or perhaps an associate analytics consultant, but I'm going to say associate analyst is more common. And then we promote you consistently very quickly up through the ranks. Once you're kind of in the know with our tech stack and have worked on your first project, have gotten some feedback. So we save a lot of these promotions for internal positions. So it goes from associate analytics, AAC, to analytics consultant, which is a high-level consultant. And then you can either choose to have a management track, which would be like team lead and principal consultant, or you could stay as kind of an individual contributor, subject matter expert, and stay as more of like a senior analytics consultant who has deep knowledge of, more than one area of technology and is probably going to be brought in for more technically complicated projects. All of our analysts and consultants work together and can work on any project. So you're assigned by bandwidth, not always just by skill level. Sometimes you might be brought in because you have a certain skill set or certificate, but it's also expected that if you don't know what you'll need for the project, that you'll go and learn it. So that's why growth mindset is really important to what we're looking for at this company. And what we're hiring for right now, as I mentioned, probably the associate analyst position. That's for people with 0 to 3 years of data analyst experience. But if you do have experience in the field, maybe you're pivoting from data analytics to data science, and you have, 2 to 4 years of data analyst experience or something similar to that, you could also apply for the associate analytics consultant role. These are the two roles we'll be hiring for consistently up until the summer and probably in the fall as well, but we're focusing on the summer for right now. We have onboarding dates every second week of the month. So that would be second week of May, June, and July. And we're hiring at all offices. It doesn't matter which office you'd like to be located in. Obviously, I'm guessing you all would like to stay in New York and might be located in New York, but if you have moved, any of these offices are okay to be based out of. So I'll open up the floor to any questions you might have, and we'd love to just chat with you and see, how else we can help answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Laura and Valerie. I'm Tanya. I really love the presentation. So just to start with, what are the different steps in the interview process for the associate, for the both of the posts?
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. So basically, we have a 4-step process. So there's a phone screen that'll usually be with me. So it's a half-hour phone screen, and we're looking for just, basic awareness and fit for the role, your Python and SQL skills. And then you would have a HackerRank coding challenge with Python and SQL. It's easy level toy problems. I think most of you would get through those okay. And then the next step is a take-home case study assignment where you're basically going to do some data visualizations with a tool that we give you and then write up a written business report with your findings and recommendations. And you just submit that as a written report. We look it over. And then the last round is meeting with 2 of our consultants who would talk about more behavioral and problem-solving type questions and a little bit of like database fundamentals.
Okay.
Yeah. Overall, it's about like a 2-week process, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, that sounds good. And as you mentioned that there will be a on-road training like on the snowflakes or in the Amazon.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 2 certificates that we require that you get during your training is Snowflake and Looker. And then you'll also have access to other certificates if you have time to take those, which would be the AWS, GCP, Airflow. And so there's only 2 required ones during your first 2 months, but you have access to all those other certificates along the way.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Tanya. Any other questions?
The question. In the beginning, you mentioned kind of data science, data engineering, and data analytics. Is all those kind of responsibilities kind of fall under the associate analyst title?
Yeah, so basically, depending on the project, of course, everyone gets to work on everything. So we don't have certain verticals here or certain different departments. We have one large consulting department, and associate analysts are called that, but really they're consultants. They're just entry-level consultants. And so they're going to be doing the same things that the other consultants are. The difference is you're not expected to mentor others, right? You get to ask questions, and you might take lower level tickets at first. We use a Jira ticketing system. And so while you could be working on all of those facets, it's also like what you're comfortable with and how you're kind of improving on the job. Valeria, did you want to jump in and explain anything else?
Oh, looks like I might have missed a little bit about that. Sorry, my internet's unstable. But
no problem.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree. I think that probably the biggest differences there are once you get to the associate analytics consultant, the type of projects that you service are going to be a little bit wider at all among different points of the data pipeline. For a first project as an associate analyst, it might be more specific to BI tool implementation. But like Laura mentioned, yeah, they're very similar.
Do people like tend to like specialize, either, I guess, focus more on like the data engineering aspects versus data science kind of as they grow in the role, or is it kind of everyone does everything?
I would definitely say it's mostly everyone does a little bit of everything. There are opportunities as you grow within your career to eventually specialize in a specific tool or a specific technique. I don't know that we quite yet specialize in data science alone. I think there might be a component if your skills align and a project asks for it and there's opportunity, then by all means, go for it. But I don't think quite yet. There might be room for it in the future as we begin to explore the field and partner with different tools. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks you. Awesome. And with 1 minute left, any last questions?
One more, Laura. How do we apply for the position?
Yeah, so I believe Courtney has the link and can send that out, I think, through the alumni network. If y'all are alumni, if you're graduating soon, she can also make that available. You can find us on LinkedIn or Greenhouse, but I believe with the link that Courtney will send out, we'll know that you attended our info session. So that would probably be the best link.
Yes, I'm going to send out a wrap-up email with all that information. And Laura, if there's anything else that you want me to include, just let me know. I'm going to send that out today.
Yeah, that would be great. And yeah, if any of you are interested in applying, I think there's a section that said, how did you hear about this? You're welcome to just put, NYDS info session or from Laura or from Courtney, however you want to do that. But there will be a space to kind of say, hey, I actually have more information about the company and looked into this.
And just, I'm a little inquisitive about one thing, that when the companies apply, they give you an objective to do a project. Does that get improvised in the due course of the project? Like if they want to add in something or I mean, if they want to have some other requirements in addition to what they have said before.
That's a great question. It sounds like you maybe have dealt with project management before. Yeah, so I think what you're talking about is scope creep, when people try to fit stuff into projects that were not originally in the sprint.
Yes.
And I'm sure Valeria's dealt with that too. From what I understand, it's usually kind of a compromise, right? You're going to see whether it's worth it or possible to fit something in. And we have project managers here who help with a lot of that communication. So luckily our consultants aren't the only ones dealing with that. Valeria, do you think we usually try to add things in, or do you think we usually try to push back and maybe add it to a different sprint? Oh, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. I would say it's a little bit of both. What we often evaluate is the level of effort. And so we will take some time to evaluate the task to our best guess what that might entail in terms of hours, in terms of resources. We'll give that back to the client and say, hey, if this is something that's very important and you want to prioritize, then we can push something else to get this done. And so we do try to work with them a little bit to understand their priority, if they're then okay to push something else. If the client says, actually maybe not, then we disregard it and maybe leave it for another time.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's what helps to be in an agile framework, is it's easier to explain to the client, like, here's where it fits in. And how important is this feature to you? Because there's other things that will get pushed around because of it. So I think using that agile works really well for us, and we do all of our sprint planning and make sure everything's very aligned, and our project managers help keep everyone on track with that.
Yeah, sounds great. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. I really appreciate you attending live as well. And for anyone else tuning in, thanks for watching this as well. Feel free to reach out anytime. You can also reach out to me and Valeria on LinkedIn. We're on there pretty constantly, and looking forward to any future applications. I think, you'll like working here. Feel free to ask any questions if we didn't get to address them in person today.
Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
I truly appreciate it. Valeria, thank you so much for joining us as well. I appreciate your time. And everyone else, enjoy your first day of April. Hopefully nobody cracks any April Fool jokes on you guys or do anything weird. But enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend. And I will speak to you all soon. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Bye.